Hi, welcome. This is a moon magic blog, and my name is Layla, and I'm the creator of this blog. And I am starting this video blog. I was inspired and encouraged by a really wonderful friend in my life named Lee Morales, who really has been very supportive of me and the work that I do in the world, and really gave me this idea to do this kind of a blog. Um, and I want to say, I want to give a major shout out to Lee and say, Lee Morales, this is for you. So I'm here and I'm doing this because you believe in me, and I appreciate that so much. I'm pretty shy, so this is my first time making a blog like this and recording myself, so I'm going to do my best. I'll start by just talking about who I am and why I'm doing this. Um, I am a witch. I practice magic. I practice divination. Mostly I practice divination. I do a bunch of other things too. I do herbalism. I am also a body worker, and I've been practicing divination in particular since I was very young, and I'm about 9 years old. And then previous to that, I was probably practicing magic since I was have been born. Um, Most likely, I mean, I can't really give you an exact time when that happened, but I'm pretty sure it was happening without me even being fully aware of it, which is usually the case with most people, regardless of their age, because that's how magic usually starts. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm a witch. That's the word that's used in this culture. I like to think of it as I'm a woman with power, because the word witch has been taken and turned into a lot of different things by media, the history, patriarchy, etc., etc. So it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It can mean something really negative, and it can mean something really positive. It's all about what you do with that identity. What do I do with the identity? I kind of embrace it and have fun with it. Sometimes I take it really seriously, and sometimes I don't take it seriously at all. Um, what I do take seriously is the power that people wield with that sort of framework, with that kind of identity, is really important, because when you're someone who has natural power, it's important to use it responsibly. This blog is one of the ways in which I'm attempting to use power responsibly. Um, People ask me all the time. They know what my interests are, and people just all the time are always like, what do you do on the new moon? What do you do on the full moon? What's going on? And I'm honestly, I'm always like, I don't know, nothing special. But that's not true. I'm always doing something special on a new moon and on a full moon, and pretty much every night of the week, I would say. But most especially on the new moon and the full moon, because the moon is one of the most powerful, most poignant cycles that affects all of us, regardless of our gender, regardless of how we identify. It affects the entire planet so intensely. So it's a very powerful time for magic of all sorts, divination and otherwise. It's a powerful time to look within. It's a powerful time of reflection, and it's a good moment to just take a time out and really feel what it feels like in the world. Just to be like, okay, it's a new moon right now, and everything is dark. There's darkness in the sky. She's not there. She's winking right now. What's she trying to say? Um, so Lee inspired me to do a blog in general, and then I kind of at first had this idea that it was going to be like a monthly divination of some sort, so people could get some information and, hopefully get something helpful from having like a monthly report or whatever. Um, then I kind of rethought that, and I had a really great idea, and I was like, well, people ask me all the time what the heck I'm doing on a new moon and on a full moon, and I'm usually divining and doing all kinds of stuff. So I figured I would make this blog into more like a moon blog, but also have divination involved and some information and education on some spells that people could do. Just basically recording what I actually do on these nights, which to me is not super interesting, but I mean, it is interesting. It's fun. I'm having fun. I'm basically in some kind of worship of some sort. Um, and so what I'm recording is not the worship part because that's private, but I'm recording my process so that people can see like what it is I'm thinking about, what it is I'm looking at, what stands out to me. So I'm going to throw in a bit of astrology. I'm not the most adept astrologer, but I do know a few things. So I'll be putting some astrology out there, and then I will also be pulling cards from my deck, and I'll be doing that live. I haven't pre-looked at my deck or my cards. I'll basically be doing a divination for the night, and that divination will say what's going on in this new moon time. I'll have some information about the moon in general, and some spell work. I'll make spell work recommendations. So even though the recording will happen at the new moon and at the full moon on those nights, you can always watch an old video and probably hope maybe you'll find something, some kind of information that might be useful for another time that might be fun to use. And while working magic with the moon is extremely powerful, I want to make it really clear that magic is something that can be worked at any time. Of course, aligning it with certain astrological elements and, our moon is going to bring a lot more oomph. If there's something that you need and it's desperate and you need to have it done, then you should by all means do it. Don't feel completely bound to the sky. I mean, we are bound to the sky, clearly. We're bound to everything in one way or another because we're all connected. However, if you find yourself in an emergency situation and you need to be doing some emergency magic, I want to say just please do the magic and enough with everything. Okay, so back to my process. So on a full moon or a new moon, this time it's a new moon, which means that the moon has been waning. So it has gone from full down to being completely blank, a blank slate, if you will. She's dark right now, and she will be waxing into fullness. New moons are a really great time to call things in because during the waxing period, there's a buildup of energy, and it's kind of a really nice time for propagating whatever it is that you desire, the things that you want to come into play. I sort of take things to a whole new step. I like to look at the astrological influences as well. Um, what it always comes down to for me is that none of this is an exact science. So I'm kind of wacky in the way I do things. I don't really like rules. Um, and a lot of the information that I look at is from has a very Western perspective to it, but my approach is very non-Western, and that can be a little confusing to people. Um, I always use my instincts. However, it's also really helpful to look at other information too, just to see, what could be of use. And if something stands out to me or speaks to me, then I go with that. Um, and I would encourage that as well for anybody doing this kind of work or just wanting to have fun. And it should be fun. Like, magic should be really fun. Like, you should enjoy this. This isn't like a chore, like, oh my God, it's the new moon, and I don't know what just happened. Oh my God, it's the new moon. I gotta do this and that and blah, blah, blah. I mean, magic is work. Sometimes it's work. I mean, for me, it's work because I perform magic for other people on their behalf, and that's, I guess you could call that a job. Um, but there is work involved, of course. I would hope that you're having fun creating your own magic. If you're not, then either stop doing it or find a different approach. Um, and I'm not I'm not an expert. I'm just a person who loves this and is sharing my love for it and sharing my process. So I'm not the end all be all of anything either. So, please go find other things and see what there is to see. There's a lot of great information out there, and there's a lot of really amazing practitioners from many different disciplines. I don't have one particular discipline that I'm a part of. I draw from a lot of different traditions. I'm first generation in this country. A lot of what I know comes from my Lebanese ancestry. And I come from a long line of seers and scryers, so I just go with what I know, what feels right, what feels true, and it's never done me wrong. So, let's talk about the sky. Um, so we've been waning from an Aquarius full blue moon, and I believe it was the last blue moon for quite some time. It was a very powerful full moon, and Aquarius is all about social change. It's about consciousness. Aquarius loves rebellion, loves revolution, loves electricity, um, things like that. So with this full moon, we kind of have this like back energy. So the moon has waned from that, and we're going into a very different time. And right now, actually, the moon is new in the sign of Leo. In fact, there are 4 signs in Leo right now. This is the only thing I've pre-prepared just because like I forget, because I'm like, oh, astrology, da 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 da, and I'm like really into it, and then I'm like, oh, I can't remember all the names and the this and the that. I kind of dump information. I think it might be just like, I don't know. I'm an Aquarius. Like, we don't like rules, remember? So what am I supposed to do? Sue me. So we have 4 signs in Leo right now. Happy birthday, Leo. There's the moon, the sun, Venus, and Mars are all in Leo right now. That's a lot of fire. Right? So, and Venus is retrograde until September 6th. Right? So, and the sun is a planet. So something to remember about the signs is that signs influence the planets. And certain planets rule certain signs. So when a sign is in a particular planet and it's like a very nice position because it's ruled by them, there's some extra potency there. So the sun is ruled by Leo. And Leo's in the sun right now. So it's in a very happy place. Like, it likes where it's at because that's where it's under its own rule. So everything's going very swimmingly there. So that's a power place. And then we have these 4 other signs. We have the moon, which is new, is in Leo, and Venus retrograde in Leo, and Mars. Mars is how we fight. Mars is passion, right? Leo. And Venus is retrograde, and it will be retrograde until September 6th. So this is something important to kind of keep in mind with whatever magic you'll be doing this evening. Venus is a goddess. Venus is a goddess. Venus represents a goddess. That's what's going on. And a very particular goddess, one of love and beauty, relationships, culture, connection, intimacy, money. Let's think about that. Self-worth. Second chakra, people. So we have this Venus retrograde, and everything else is going pretty well. And then we have a couple other things that are really interesting to note for tonight. Mercury and Jupiter are in Virgo. And this is what I'm going to say about this, because I'm not a trained astrologer. I want to make that really clear. The things that I have to say here are probably pretty remedial for other people who are probably like super basic for most people. I stay pretty basic when it comes to astrology because I'm more of a diviner. Though astrology can be used for divination, I just divine by very different means. And I love astrology and it's great. I just that sometimes I find it too rigid for some of the things that I like to do and what I'm interested in. If you have a much more in-depth knowledge about astrology and you think I'm full of it right now, you can tell me that. That's cool. Or just not listen to me or whatever. But this is just this is my view of things. This is my experience of things. And this is the way I'm approaching my magic. And if this resonates with you, cool. If it doesn't, well, you've heard a different perspective. So this is what I want to say about Mercury and Jupiter, because I actually thought this was almost more interesting than having all this fire. It's in Virgo, both of them. Mercury and Jupiter are both in Virgo. Jupiter has a lot to do with expansion as well as synchronicity. And Mercury is about connection and communication, can be about travel. These days it can be a lot about technology as well. And Virgo, well, Virgo's very particular. I know some Virgos. They are very particular. All about the details. So, but instead of getting into all of that, this is what I want to ask you at this time, going into whatever kind of magic that you perform. How do you conceptualize the details of your personal growth? Are you paying attention to all the signs? This is a time to be meticulous about what you notice about both yourself and others. Meticulous. Meticulous. And that goes right in hand with being in a a Venus retrograde. Where are you at with your relationships? Where do you take responsibility? How do you nurture your own relationship with yourself? How do you get in right relationship with yourself so that you can be in right relationship with others? It's a big question. So I look at all this stuff first. And then I think to myself, then I go into the elements, because I love the elements. And elemental magic is wonderful and it is powerful, because elemental magic is also about the 4 directions. Now, not every culture just does four elements. There is 5 elements with traditional Chinese medicine, something to keep in mind. Right now, I'm talking about 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and I'm also talking about 4 directions: north, south, east, and west, and the way they correspond. I'm not going to get into too much depth in this video about what that all means, but it's also about the crossroads, because when you get to a 4-way intersection, that is where you meet the trickster, and the trickster is there and says, what path do you choose? And a lot of people have issues with the trickster. I don't have any issues with the trickster. I like the trickster. I am a trickster. I have that side of me. And the thing about being being a trickster, which is something that I have shame about because in this culture we cultivate a lot of shame around trickery because we confuse it with deceit. Um, I mean, nobody can really trick you. Everything is all there. Choice is yours. Choice is yours. You get to choose, right? So ask yourself what swayed me, what occluded my vision so much that I went down a different path. Trickster is there to teach you something really important about yourself. And of course, destiny is always going to be something different. If you're destined for something, you're destined for it. I mean, the trickster is just there to show you different sides of yourself, take you down different roads that eventually get you to somewhere that you're supposed to be and you're meant to be. It's just how you choose to get there. That's what's going on. A lot of the time, that's my opinion. That's also another in-depth conversation, tricksters and things like that. So I start looking at the elements because it's all about the elements. And I also start thinking about my sign. So if you want to like tailor some sort of ritual for yourself, um, think about what your sign is. Like I'm Aquarius, I'm an air sign. However, I have a lot of water. I'm very watery in general. Very watery. Um, I'm very in tune with the element of water. I'm in tune with the element of air too. It's just that water seems to be my thing, which is interesting. And Aquarius is the water bearer, so it does make sense in a certain way, but it's something I've learned about myself. And it has a lot to do with things in my chart that make me so, such a water baby. Um, Water just is an element that speaks to me. It's something that I have a really good relationship with. And it's important to note that working with elements, it's not about taking that element and using it. That's abuse. The elements, you have to have relationships with them. They teach you so much. It's more than water, air, fire, earth. Oh, I'll just grab a plant and burn some incense and a cup of water. I mean, yeah, do all of that, but keep in mind that there's a lot more going on than that. A lot more. And that's a whole other thing. So there's a lot of fire here. So I'm an air sign and also a water baby. So I would be fanning a lot of fire. So it depends on what I want to do. Do I want to do a water ritual? What does that mean for all the fire that's in the sky? That's a lot of forward momentum. That's a lot of it can mean a lot of different things. It can be powerful cleanse. It could be a powerful, some passion. Fire can be very passionate. Fire is also speed. Fire is very fast, and it's also it is very cleansing because it burns through a bunch of bullshit pretty quickly. So thinking about speed is really important because that's going to affect what you manifest or femifest or whatever. So these are the things that I look at. And then after I look at all of these things and think about the elements and think about my sign and think about the signs and or just like, find it interesting or whatever it is I do, I always get my cards. And this is where I'm doing a reading, basically, because this is all fine and well, but since I'm mostly a tarot reader, for me, it's all about what I divine. And so I'm going to divine right now about what I want to do tonight. Now that I've learned all this really great stuff and noticed so many things about the sky and what's going on and, meditated on the elements and I spend like the whole night doing this. I'm just showing you what I do right now. Like, sometimes I don't decide on, sometimes I don't even do a spell. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do, right? Sometimes it's just a time of reflection, like I said earlier. It's a time of learning, getting in touch, which is so important. It's a sacred time. It's not very common these days in our culture that we take sacred time. And this is a very sacred time. I don't usually go anywhere or do anything on new moons and full moons. I don't. I don't want to, especially the full moon. People are crazy. But then I divine, because I'm like, what's happening now during this time? Because the moon's going to be waxing full. So things will be coming to fruition, whether I put intent out there or not. And it's all about your intent. And I have 3 major rules. The first rule is harm none. My second rule is take no shit. None. My third rule is use what you have to create change. Use what you have to create change. I don't need to run out and buy anything expensive to make magic in my life. All the magic that I want to perform, I have everything I need at my fingertips. All I need to do is walk down the street to find rosemary. I live in Oakland, California. Rosemary grows everywhere. If I wanted rosemary. I don't need to be rich to do this. I just need to be me. Open your kitchen cabinet. See what you have. Now I'm looking at my cards. And hopefully I'll have something to tell you about what's going on while the moon waxes full. Because now that's what's going to start happening after tonight. And hopefully what I say will resonate with lots of people. I've never really read for a mass audience via electronic technical device before. So this is an experiment in my own capabilities, I don't know, it's just an experiment, so yeah, we'll see what happens. So wow, okay. So what I'm seeing is, I'll show you what I have. This was the first card I pulled. Let me see if I can do this in order. So these are the first 3 cards. 1, then this one, then this one. So this is the 3 of Swords, then the Chariot, then the Knight of Cups. This is a very powerful time. This is the 2 of Swords, and it's crowning those 3, so it's at the top, so it has a different influence. And at the bottom of my deck, I always read at the bottom of my deck as well. For me, it influences the whole reading. I have the 2 of Cups. Pretty obvious what that means. So, this is like I said, all the astrology stuff is great, and if you're more of an astrology person, go with what you see in the sky. For me, I listen to my deck because it never has led me wrong, and I listen to myself. And a lot of what I'm seeing here does align with some of what I see here. I'm just going to represent it to you in a totally different way. Layla talk. So what I see is that it would be a very powerful night to do some cleansing as well as calling in. So there's a couple things that would happen here. I see that a water spell of some sort would be really powerful. But more importantly, what I see is a lot of old wounds being, people just kind of, this is a really powerful time for people to fly through the obstacles of pain. And pain means many things to many people. Pain can hold people back from a lot. Um, it can it can kind of taint our vision. Um, and I see old wounds, especially from old relationships, especially from anything that had any sort of triangulation involved. You're going to learn a lot, not necessarily about the person you were, and this is all very romantic, like we're talking very intimate relationships here. So you're going to learn a lot and have a lot of great insights about not the person that you were actually intimate with, but the person that maybe interfered with that intimacy. And you're going to, this is a good time for people to like look very closely at what led you to believe someone else rather than yourself, in terms of seeing what reality is, in terms of like love and romance. This is a really powerful time for that. I see a lot going on with boundaries as well. Having really good boundaries about what you keep to yourself and what you share with others, and who you trust with perspective, and what kind of information that you want to share. There's a lot of forward movement here as well. Looks like through this waxing cycle, people are going to be communicating a lot better in terms of their emotions. So expect to sort of, I would say, expect to almost relive pain, like relive some trauma. It's not that you're going to be repeating some cycle, it's you're going to be re-experiencing some old emotions. Even though the setting or the circumstances aren't what's going on, you'll be feeling those things. So a lot of the fire in the sky is about burning through that, almost powering through that. And we've got the Chariot here. The Chariot is a very powerful card for moving forward, and moving forward in a very powerful way. Um, and this is really, like I said, it's that way you can communicate about your emotions in a really profound way. And it's really important to be able to express your emotions in a healthy way with the people that you feel emotionally about, rather than expressing your emotions to maybe not the people that you should be talking to. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me rephrase that. Meaning, express your emotions to the people that you have the feelings for. Don't go to XYZ and be like, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, this is how I feel. You're not going to feel any better. And maybe you already learned that, but if you haven't learned that, you're going to learn that now. Um, and learning about those boundaries. Those boundaries are good. Boundaries with communication are also good. You know? I mean, I mean, there's only so many ways you can say I love you till somebody can understand what that means. You know? So, knowing when you've done your part, and realizing that the other person has their self-worth to work on before they can hear what you're saying, before they can get through enough of their pain to really hear that there is love there, and that they can believe in that, and that they can trust that. I want to say a little bit more about the pain in the past that could be coming up for people. Since Venus is in retrograde, a lot of it is review. So this is a time to look at self-worth. Like, a lot of this can be about, am I worthy enough? Do I deserve what it is I really want? Do I really deserve what's being presented to me? Like, is this too good to be true, or is it really true? It is really true. It is really true. It's just about embracing that and realizing that whatever you do today doesn't have to be what you did yesterday or what happened 10 years ago. It's what's happening today. It's what's happening right now. You're a different person, and you can embrace that, and you can trust that. Trust yourself and feel. This is a good time to feel. If something hurts, feel it. Feel it. Feel it so strongly you know, that there's nothing else that you can do except stand there and run it into the ground. Just do it. There's a lot of passion in the sky. There's a lot of fire. So while this is not exactly the time I would recommend for people to be, approaching the person that they really want to get hot and heavy with, just know that it's leading to that. So in the waxing cycle, keep your eyes open for signs of people from the past that you have unfinished business with. Somebody could be coming into your sphere that you used to be in contact with, might be coming back. That is definitely a possibility at this time. High possibility. In which case, I would say go for it, because what I see here means that they've probably worked through enough shit that you can proceed to the next level of the relationship that you weren't able to get to in your past. Of course, take everything as it comes and evaluate the situation for yourself first. Have good boundaries. Always have good boundaries. But also keep in mind that if they're coming to you, then there's something that they've worked through enough to be able to approach you. So embrace that for what it is also. That's what I would say. Tonight's a really good night for poetry. Here's a great spell. Write a poem or a rhyme of some sort, or for something that you want or desire. Take a pot of hot water, boil it, put some sugar in it. I like brown sugar, personally, because it's just nice. And you can add a few things to that pot, too. Cinnamon is really good for sensuality, for the second chakra. It's also a tool of Oshun, who is an Orisha goddess, deity. It's also really good for your circulation. Cinnamon is also really good in terms of money, and that also pertains to the second chakra as well. You could add some cinnamon to it. Chamomile is excellent. Chamomile is really good for drawing money because it's a golden, honey-looking substance once it's been steeped. And things like that. Start there. And sugar just makes things really sweet. Put that poem or whatever it is you've written, whatever it is you've expressed, however long or short, put it in that pot of water. Let it sit. Pray over it. Think about what you've written. And then in the dark of the moon, go outside and water a plant with that. Put it in the ground. See what happens. Turn away and don't look back. That could be fun. Or you could bathe in it. That could be fun too. Or you could drink it. Take the paper out first. Things like that. If you're going to be doing candle magic tonight, keep in mind that there's already a lot of fire in the sky, so anything that you're going to ask for or pray for, I would probably recommend it being, you want to think about speed. Fire is very fast. It's very furious. It's going to go quick. So, you want to think about something that you feel very prepared for. Just because of what's going on magically. And if, fire and fire is always fun, so go for it if that's what you want to do. These are all just things to think about. Are these the things that I'm going to do tonight? I don't know. The night hasn't even started yet, and I do this all night long, so I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm just giving you your ideas, giving you some ideas. I'm just telling you what I see. And that's all I can do is just tell you what I see. Um, if you're gonna do, I don't know, I don't know what just happened. If you are gonna do candle magic, my recommendation is to use 2 candles and make sure try to if you have it on hand, and try to use 2 different colors. Um, Maybe one that's a more earth tone to help ground the magic, and then another that could represent the fire in the sky. So, just something to think about. Um, Also, I see a lot of stuff in here about self-esteem. So, calling into your world, maybe like affirmations for your higher self would be really good. Leo is also really about self-esteem. Leo is really out there, very performative. Leo is very body. Um, when I think of Leo, I think about the performance artist. Um, I think about people who are really in touch with their bodies. You know, I think about pack. I think about packs, pack animals, pack tribes. Who's your people? Where are your people at? You know, who makes you feel socially amazing? Who do you feel comfortable like expressing yourself to? Who do you feel comfortable like um, being playful with? Things like that. Wrestling with. I wrestle with my cats. My cats are like dogs. My cats are crazy. Now I'm sharing way too much about myself. I think I'm enjoying this video a little too much, so I'm going to cut things off. But yeah, so this is a big time for things like that. Expect a lot of cleansing. It's going to be a really, really good time for that. And I just see some really beautiful things in terms of relationships. This Venus retrograde is really going to serve everybody, and this new moon time in the retrograde is just a really good time to ask for things that have to do with the past, really. I mean, if you want to call an old lover to you that you feel like there's unfinished business and you want to make amends, this is the time to do it. Tonight is the time to do it. Or if you just want to say goodbye, tonight is the time to do it. And then in the waxing cycle, you'll go through the thing. You'll more than likely go through a lot of things that help to close that out for yourself, or invite it back in. So there's a lot that you can do with this. Generally, though, whether you perform magic or not, what I'm looking at here in this spread is that this is a really big time for those old relationships. For those boundaries to get put in place, and for you to ask those questions about what you really deserve in life and who you really want to be with. Um, and once again, like I said, expressing yourself emotionally. Who do you express yourself emotionally to? Can you say I love you to the people that you love? Are you able to do that? Do you feel like you can do that? Where are you at in that place in your life where you can confidently say I love you and feel that, um, feel the nudity in that? Yeah. And can you say I love you without dropping all of your this, that, and the other? Having those boundaries, knowing that you can say I love you and still be wholly you, wholly yourself. That is standing in a place of true self-love. That is being very self-loving. So I wish you that. I wish you all of that. Um, I'm gonna stop this because I'm tired. And have a good night. This was my first video, so have patience with me. Uh, it was really long. It's 43 minutes, so I hope it wasn't too boring. And once again, thank you to Lee Morales for inspiring me to do this. Um, and also, um, if you have any questions, let me know. All right, bye.